The story along is really nice to have, but kind of maybe more on the line of, there's challenges. And we heard those too, but just kind of it'll be a win-win to have.
Okay, we'll try that, just because, if you want to be grumpy about things. Show me the money.
Dennis Schultz said that all the JC project information was destroyed by mistake. And in the 1993 box, I found the project binder. The 1973 JC project binder, and it was really interesting. So we do have one thing of the JCs.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you could add this to it, these are projects.
Okay. So, I re-enabled the guest network. The guest network is the Nordic Center, and the guest password is Vassalopit with a capital V. So you're connected to that now. Why you can't connect to Garage, I have no idea. But it doesn't matter what building you're in, it's the same password.
Sure,
Okay,
thank you.
alrighty. So Terry, why don't you have a seat over there? Angela, those are your glasses or Terry's glasses?
Those are mine.
Okay, just, you can leave them there,
I will.
because they would look good on Terry.
Oh, gosh.
And we're gonna put Terry in the hot seat and just ask him questions.
And then, so, do you want us,
We can,
I mean,
anybody, yeah,
But you're just having it, but like the other ones we did for when they did the 25th, there were some other people that asked them, but they were just showing it on the,
yeah. And if there's stories that come about that the two of you want to contribute, I will turn the camera on you. So there.
I don't want to be, but I just thought, can we ask a question if it comes up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I am not the interviewer authority, but boy, this is gonna
Yeah.
work nice.
Are we gonna include some stuff on landowner too?
We certainly
'Cause
will.
we're thinking killing 3 versus 1 stone here if we can, as long as we got you here.
Pick his brain.
Right.
Nice thing when with the editing, it can be all clipped, so we're done,
Yeah, I mean, we're not stuck with a 40-minute video that everybody has to watch, or
No,
whatever it ends up being.
it's cool, if they include, in the past, they included clips of their interviews, so it was nice.
So today, March 20th, the day we were supposed to have a ski race, by the way, but we cleaned everything up because there's no snow. We're interviewing Terry Salmela. Terry is a former board member and longtime volunteer, and you're going to end president, correct?
Yeah, yes, for 2 years.
For 2 years. So, I guess for me, to start it off with is just the questions. Present in the room, we have Angela Johnstone Nissler and Susan Franz Weber and John Larson running the camera. Ha! And I don't ever have to be on camera, so that works out pretty swell. So Terry, tell us a little bit about how you got started in the Vassalopit and when, and some of the experiences you had in your earliest memories of the Vassalopit.
Okay, well, I moved to Mora in 1980. I skied the race three times. And then in 1994, I went to the Lillehammer Olympics in Norway. And when I came home, Don Olson called me and asked if I'd be on the board. And Tom Stoffel, I think, was president. And so I started in 95. And I remember being asked, I said, well, what should I do? And they said, well, one thing you could do is coordinate with the sheriff's office and set up a safety committee. So that's what we did. And we always met about 10 days before the race with the sheriff and the opportunities in emergency care students with the EMTs and all the safety-related people connected with the race. The other thing they asked me to coordinate was road crossings. And we, on the time I was involved, we had about 23 road crossings between the long race and the short race. And then I worked with, Paul Hoppy had been coordinating it just before me and told me some horror stories that we needed to avoid. Like make sure somebody's there when the skiers are coming. Because he said he's been through some close calls. And then Mike Fetzik, he said I should involve because he'd been so reliable and worked with the Forest Service and DNR, and so we worked together for many years ever since that. And it was Mike's idea to have a road crossing dinner on the Thursday before the week of the race, and that went over really well. He made the meat and potatoes, and I made salads, and we had the same menu every year, but everybody loved it. And it was just a chance to say thank you, and then a chance to tell them what the plans were for the race, and get them to sign up and committed to a road crossing. And then we knew where we stood, how many we didn't have covered, and then we had to scramble to find people to cover those road crossings. Another thing with road crossing development, Randy Reynolds came up with the idea that let's put indoor-outdoor carpeting across, especially the gravel roads and tar too, and then you have to use less snow. And that was all predicated based on several complaints from our elite skiers who were scratching their skis when they crossed the roads and hit rocks. So those are some of the experiences with road crossings. The other thing I guess I was involved in were trail improvements. Over the 25 years I was on the board, I was guessing we probably made 25 different changes on the trail. It seemed like every year we would do it for several reasons. One is a landowner may not want us on their land anymore, or we found a better route, or a combination. The goal was to always get it out of open areas and out of the wind and out of the sun into the woods as much as possible for shade and wind protection. The second goal was to get as many hills into the trail as we could, and we made some really great improvements. And I could go on forever talking about them in detail if you want, but I ended up with 40 stitches in my knee due to a chainsaw injury on Slagle's Hill back in 90, or no, what was it? When did we switch to when we had the 25th anniversary? And that was the year that we widened the trail, the 35 trail, pretty much from the start all the way. I think we got as far as Felgers maybe or Knife Lake. But anyway, there were lots of changes we made. I don't know if you want me to go into detail. I could.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of them, we don't need to go hill by hill, but.
Okay.
Take the big ones. Yeah. The big changes.
Okay, the big ones.
Yeah.
What got me on the board probably was I talked to Betty Wilkins, Dan and Betty Wilkins up on County Road 3, is it? And near the Knife River. And they said, why don't you, rather than going down on the river, why don't you cross to the east side of the river on our land? And there's some beautiful hills in there. So that's the first trail improvement project I got involved in. I remember a Groslin boy and I cut a heck of a lot of trees in one day, and I went back many times and brush sod brush, and we got, I don't know, 3 really nice hills in there. And and that really improved the trail, and it became the nicest part of the trail. Then another route that we rerouted was Ricky Matson's, near the last soup stop, near the Knife River. We moved it from all the cornfields and Jim Evanson's corn and Matheson's cornfield. We moved it over to the river and went by Ricky Matson's house, and it turned out really nice and very scenic. Another one, let's see, I'll talk about the 25th anniversary in 1998. The big improvement there was at Bachman's. We rerouted it through their gravel pit, over a nice hill, through their pastures, then through Bachman's woods, and rerouted it out to County Road 3, and then from between 3 and 8, we moved it and created a whole new nice trail in there. And then from 8 all the way down to Slagle's Corner, we widened that. And then going up Slagle's Hill, that was a fun story. I called Bill Slagle Saturday morning and I says, can we come and widen the ski trail on your hill? And he says, you what? What? So I said, let me come over and we'll talk to you about it. And then I think Leroy and others were there too, and we ended up making it 35 feet wide because it was such a bottleneck going up that hill. It's a 100-foot vertical climb, and it was like 15 feet wide, and everybody was, couldn't pass on the hill. So we overdid it, we overkilled, we overachieved on that one. But the amazing thing is Bill got all excited about it. He brought out his bulldozer. And then we got Ray Brash, who's a neighbor. He had a bulldozer. He brought that in. And then we even had Rod Osleen bring his D8 cat. And I remember the arm on the D8, on the blade, broke off. So they had to chain it up and go to Ray Brash. Unfortunately, Ray Brash had a machine shop, and he had the right tools to fix and put that blade back on that D8 cat. But when they were in the process of clearing that hill with that huge caterpillar, they dug up a boulder that was 5 feet in diameter. And they pushed it and it started rolling. It got away from them, ran down the hill, and fortunately it ran into a tree. But it was on that hill, on that Saturday we were working, and Bob Lindy came. He was grooming the trail with a roller and a Ranger. He stopped on the north side. He walked over Swagle's Bridge, and he came and looked, and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, we have to get this done for the 25th anniversary, and it's a bottleneck, So, but then a few minutes later, I went up to cut another tree, and I don't know. I was cutting down on a branch, and the chainsaw blade slipped and cut my leg, and started bleeding. It didn't hurt at all.
Well, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, and then John Hollister was there, and he said, "Well, we got to get you to the hospital." So I said, "Okay." And here comes Kate Fisk out of the woods. She was a newspaper writer coming to take pictures and write about the story. I said, "Let's get out of here."
Yeah,
before she sees me. And so I went to the ER and got 40 stitches in my leg. Fortunately, it didn't cut any main arteries. Well, I might have actually skied the race that year. I healed enough, I couldn't believe it. But anyway, the next day, then that night, Bill called me and we laughed about it and talked about it. And the next day, Tom Stoffel, he said they finished cutting the trees, so it turned out really nice. So that was Slagle's Hills
Can you give
saga.
me the year of that again?
1997 was the
Okay,
25th.
I believe the photos that were archived this winter were from that event because you see the hill and all the equipment.
Yeah. Well, it's,
They've been archived.
Good.
the 25th anniversary was 1998, I believe.
No, it's 1997.
It was, okay.
Yep, I have it on.
My record is wrong, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
We forgive you. You had chainsaw in your mind.
Yeah, right. Okay, and we've done many other projects all along the trail from, just, another big one though was the tornado damage up there in the, I don't know if it was Johnstone's land or the neighbor's land, and that was a awful project to have to cut. It took, we wouldn't get many feet done in one day because the trees were so messed up and mixed up, and you couldn't read whether the part of the tree you were cutting was under tension or compression. And that's critical because I had a widowmaker. Fortunately, I had chaps on, and I had a widowmaker flip the chainsaw blade again on my leg. But by the time I got it off of there, it had cut through half through the chaps. So I was lucky I had that. So there's a lot of interesting stories and close calls along the way. But we widened the trail many places, like north of Knife Lake and south of County Road 3 was a big improvement. We even had Paul Kylander come in with his old Army surplus cat and widen that section south of Larry Wilkins. And then we redid the start area. I got a new landowner in there that bought it from Linders and named Bob Pock, and he wanted us to relocate it, so that was another major project. Another project was from Roy Levis's or from Soup Stop C on the 58 trail down to Roggentine Hill. That was a big improvement because there was logging that there north of Roggentine Hill one year, and we would have had to haul, I don't know, 20 to 50 dump truck loads of snow to make a trail through there because the loggers ruined it, and that was an annual threat to our race every year is where are they going to be logging, and that happened many times. So fortunately we were able to reroute it through Levis's fields and Anderson's, I think it was, and the only problem, we ran into an awful lot of rocks, but the next year we got it bulldozed. And then after we were able to purchase Benji Krebetzi's land, we did a lot of work on Wassa Hills with bulldozers and whatnot, and Rogers Ridge, and it keeps we're not done yet.
Continues, yeah.
We're still fine tuning it and trying to bulldoze, trying to drag it, trying to seed it. So John can go in there with his mower in the summer, or we could actually do with a riding lawnmower and mow the trail. We'd like to make it that smooth, and then we can get by with less snow. So that's our goal with trail improvements. Another thing I did was I lined up forerunners, because I remember one year it snowed about an inch or so the week of the race, and I remember someone coming and saying, "Hey, we got. Do you have forerunners lined up?" And they said, "No, we don't." And I said, "Well, we better do it." and so I remember if I lined up forerunners, but often, more than not, there'd be one that won't show up or calls me at the last minute and says I can't be there. So I remember my nephew who was announcing would drop me off at, or I'd leave my car at Soup Stop C there by Richards Road and Levis's Road crossing, and then I'd then I had them bring me to soup stop B and drop me off, and I went and foreran it. And I remember Angie, you foreran many times.
And I was wondering, did they just forerun, because I recall forerunning for the 58, even though most of them were skating. But we still foreran the tracks, correct?
Right,
In
yeah,
the
we
58,
did it for both
For
races.
both races,
Yeah.
yeah.
And, and then on the 35-42 trail, we tried to put in 2 sets of double tracks, so then we'd have to have 2 people on each section. And the one thing, I'll pat myself on the back, one year, I had my relatives stayed overnight. They dropped me off at Soup Stop 1 on the 35, there on County Road 25, and I had left my car at Slagle's, by Slagle's, or the next soup stop, and I did the forerunning plus nipped some brush in between. I got to Slagle's, jumped in my car, ran to the start, and I was able to put on my ski boots and grab my skis and change my underwear and go skiing. So I did a 10K to warm up in a 35 race, so I felt real proud of myself for doing that in one day. But some years, 1 or 2 years, I missed getting to ski in the race because I had to forerun, myself. But that's kind of been our philosophy as board members, that if everything's going fine, we have the right to ski the race. Yeah. And if it's not going right, well, it's our fault.
Yeah.
So we gotta pick up the pieces, Another project I guess I got involved in because of my brother was the design of the Nordic Center and building of that. And John Hollister and Pat Gorham said, we have to go talk to David and my brother and see if they'll design us a Nordic Center. So that's how that started. And in 1 weekend, he designed it. It was amazing. But that all started by the fact that we were going to have a garage built there and stick in a shower and a sauna and a kitchen and whatnot. And I showed the plan to my brother, and he said, oh, that would be terrible. He said, you owe it to the Swedes, you owe it to the Swedish ancestors who settled this area, and you owe it to the Swedish Vasaloppet, who gave you permission to use the name, to do something really nice. Because if you do something nice, then you'll have something you'll be proud of and people will take care of. And then the bottom line is, when the Swedes come, they'll say, wow. And that's what they said. They said, our Nordic Center is nicer than theirs. So I guess it paid to do it right the first time. And that was, holy cow. I mean, we hired Benji to frame it in, but volunteers did most of the work. We had 2 or 3 wine and cheese parties, and it was amazing, raised like $120,000 in one night in Mora. We couldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. But that's how much dedication and commitment and passion there is for this event and this race in Mora. So it was, no one's regretted it. And now it's 20 years old and it still looks good as new. And we haven't had much vandalism, if at all. No. And that's partly because people take pride in it and they respect it, and it's become the Vasaloppet has put more on the map. And so, but we've got a great Nordic Center and great garages now. But now, thanks to John's thinking and Don Olson and others, we've been able to develop a beautiful trail system here. And the point-to-point race we would have loved to continue. Everybody bemoans the fact that they can't do that anymore. However, we had two enemies against us. One is the climate has been changing. Second, the land ownership has been changing, and people have subdivided their land. We have so many more landowners now. We were like at 120 at one time, I believe. Now I hate to think of what it would be. And and the people that buy the land for deer hunting aren't from Mora, and they're weekenders that don't know much about, if anything, about the community of the race, and don't care. And we're a nuisance to them. So we've been able to, by consolidating it to a smaller area, the race is much more manageable now. The other thing I helped Dick Smith a lot on was trail mowing in the fall. And we were able to borrow Don Olson's large tractor and flail mower. And the thing that Dick would insist on is that we would not start until after Thanksgiving. So we're past the deer hunting season, pretty much, except muzzle loading. And second, so that all the grass and the stubble has frozen. And it's so much easier to cut frozen stubble than green stubble. Green stubble wraps around the flail mower, and you gotta stop every once in a while and take hay hooks and dig it out of there and cut it out, and that was always a pain. And but the problem is it would often snow 6 inches before we got to mowing the trail. But somehow we got it done, and somehow we were lucky to get enough snow many of the years. But I think we've had to cancel it like 4 more years, and we've had it 5 years, and we've had it on the lake at least 4 years, if not 5. And so moving it to within a mile of Mora, we can do 20 to 25 kilometers of snow using man-made snow and our snow guns, which has been a real blessing in disguise. And it's saved the race, it's saved the sport, and hopefully maintain our reputation. So that's about all I can think of right now.
Good job, Terry.
Can you talk just a little bit about any of the discussions that went on with the idea of switching from point to point to a lap race?
Yeah.
Some of the pros and cons of both.
Okay.
I'm asking you to dig back into your meeting archives.
Okay.
And you know, as I know, there's the formal Vassalopit board meetings, and then there's all the after trail meetings that take place sometimes in the garage and what have you. And if you can recount any of those kind of discussions that may have gone on between you and Dick and Don and you know, groomers and other people like that.
Well, I do know we talked about a transition plan from point to point, from 2 trails, to try to cut the workload down in terms of mowing and grooming. And I had it all figured out time-wise, how we could schedule them and everything. And it would have meant to put all of the races on the 35 trail. However, in order to get enough distance for the 58 and the 42, we would run the 58 around the Johnstone loops through Soup Stop A and B, but then we'd run it back onto the causeway and back onto the down the west side, I'm thinking, of the Memorial Trail, and then get the 58 to join the 35 there, where the 42 now joins the 35. and that was a transition plan we had all ready to go for 2016, but we ended up, I think we were able to make enough snow that year to do kind of a hybrid and put snow on some of and we had some of Benji's trails done, or Benji's land that we had purchased, those trails done, or Vasa Hills. that's the one transition concept we threw out
Mhm.
there. The pros and cons. The pros of the long race is it's nice, more pleasant to ski in the woods by yourself, and the experience of it. People love that. They didn't have to go in circles like we do with a lap race. The cons, it's more work. The other con is the landowners, and with a change of landowners, they're not always welcoming of the race. However, we did a pretty good job over the years to make friends with them and explain what's going on, and most people were really proud to have the race going over their land. And sometimes when we'd move it off their land, they would get angry. and they felt, like we neglected them, so, because they took pride in it. So that was the predominant feeling. And that's why we had a landowner dinner to thank them. And that was kind of a chance for camaraderie. I remember a first landowner dinner I was at, Bob Lindig and Bernie Mantz. I would read all the names of the landowners, and if they were there, they'd have them stand up. And Bernie would always have one or two little stories to tell about each one. It was great.
Yeah.
And if you didn't embarrass them. But it was, so anyway, but then some of the other thing I mentioned earlier was logging. Invariably, there would be somebody logging, and then they'd have to get the timber off before the road restrictions came on. So we had a real conflict in timing, trying to save the snow for our race, and they would pack it down or totally plow it out of the way, and there'd be no snow on the trail. Or they'd be going in and hauling logs about the time of the race. And they're trying to get it all done by 1st of March or middle of February or whenever the road restrictions came off. So that was always a conflict, and that was a real con and unpredictable situation. The other thing is rocks, stumps, and just clearing the trail and trying to make it better every year was a goal, but something we would never achieve because it's just too much territory to cover. I mean, we had a total of 50 miles of trail. That is the same amount of trail that is in Sweden for their Swedish Vasaloppet. We were trying to do the same amount of land.
Mhm.
And then, because there's all one trail system.
Yeah, and they have one trail, and we had a split trail. And so